Students, how are you all? Hope all of you are fine at home and studying. Yes, are you studying at home? So students, study at home because now you are whole day at home. So you should play at home, do some help of your mother and then do your studies as well because studies are important. Yes, by this let's start our social science class. And in social science we are studying subject history. And in history, which chapter we are studying? Right now we are studying chapter 3 of history in the earlier cities. We have started chapter 3 and in chapter 3, what are the recapitulation? What are the things we have discussed? We have discussed about the stories of Harappa. We have discussed about the cities of Harappa. Yes, Harappa civilization. And in earlier class, we have studied what was special about these cities and the houses, drain system, and the streets in Harappan cities. So today we will do the recapitulation of both these topics and then we will move to our further topic of this chapter. So let's start with our first topic, that is what was special about these cities, Harappan cities. So as we have studied earlier in the class that archaeologists have found a set of unique objects in almost all these cities. Red pottery painted with designs in black, stone weight, seal, special beads, copper tools and parallel-sided long stone blades. So these all were the things which were found by the archaeologists in these cities. Now, many of these cities were divided into two more parts. We have studied this. Usually the part to the west was smaller but higher, and archaeologists describe this as the citadel. Yes, what is a citadel? Citadel is a place where a killa. Yes, in Hindi we say it as a killa, where all the administrative work of the cities have been performed earlier. Yes, so many of these cities were divided into two or more parts. Usually the part to the west was smaller but higher. Archaeologists describe this as the citadel. Generally, the part to the east was larger but lower. This is called the lower town, where usually the people of the city lived. Almost all the cities were divided into two parts, a citadel on the western side and a lower town on eastern side. The citadel consists of large structure with function and administrative building, and lower town consists of housing for people. So now you understood what is citadel and what was lower house. What was special about these cities? Very often walls of baked bricks were built around each part. The bricks were so well baked that they have lasted for thousands of years. So they were very well baked. The bricks were laid in an interlocking pattern, which was making the walls very strong, and they were not being broken by for long years. Yes. So now we will talk what was special in the city Mohenjodaro. In some cities, special buildings were constructed on the citadel. For example, in Mohenjodaro, a very special tank, which archaeologists call the Great Bath, was built in this area. This is a great ball, the Great Bath. And what was special in the Great Bath? This was linked with bricks coated with plaster and made watertight with a layer of natural tars. So it was made so strong that it was lined with the bricks coated with plaster and then made watertight with a layer of natural tar so that water should not leak from the Great Bath. There were steps leading down to it from two sides, while there were rooms on all the sides. So on all the sides of the Great Bath, there were rooms. And there were stairs also from two sides to enter the Great Bath. Water was probably brought in from a well and drained out after use. Perhaps important people took a dip in this tank on special occasions. This we have already studied in earlier class. This is a Great Bath and people come here, take a dip on special occasions only. Other cities such as Kalibangan and Kothal have fire altars where sacrifice may have been performed. So this is a fire altar where the fire has been burned, and the sacrifice maybe there would be some occasions where they have performed a sacrifice at that time in Kalibangan and Lothal. And some cities like Mohenjodaro, Harappa and Lothal had elaborated storehouses. So they were also having storehouses in their lower house where they were living, where the people of Harappan civilization were living. Generally, houses were either 1 or 2-story high with rooms built around a courtyard. So what is a courtyard? Courtyard is a place, it is a area of or a ground which is covered with 4 sides with the walls, or it has rooms all around it, but there is no roof on this ground. So it is a middle place of the, you can say, a mid area where all the rooms are built around it. So that area is known as courtyard. We say in Hindi, angan. Yes, that is a courtyard. Most houses had a separate bathing area, and some had wells to supply water. So some of the houses in Harappan cities were having separate bathing areas, and some had wells to supply water. Many of these cities had covered drains. Notice how carefully these were laid out in straight line. So many of these cities had covered drains, and you can notice that this is a drain. With the help of circle, I am showing you that this is a drain system and how straight line it is being built. Although you cannot see it, each drain had a gentle slope so that water could flow through it easily. Very often, drains in houses were connected to those on the streets, and smaller drains led into bigger ones. So, more oftenly, what was there? The drain, how they have built the drain system. The small drains from the houses were connected to the drains which were on the streets, and then the street drains were then being connected to the bigger drain system. As the drains were covered, inspection holes were provided at intervals to clean them. So, as the drains were covered in the city, so there were some inspection holes, some open area where there were holes from where all the garbage was taken out when they were blocking the drainage system. So, inspection hole were built and at an intervals to clean the drains. All 3 houses, drains and streets probably would be planned and built at the same time. So when all the drains, streets and houses were built very systematically, so it was being imagined that probably there would be all the houses, drains and the streets were probably be planned and then built at the same time. So now till this we have studied in earlier class. Now today we will study the life in Harappan civilization, that how were the people living in Harappan civilization and what was the art and craft in this city. So life in the city, a Harappan city was a very busy place. There were people who planned the construction of special buildings in the city. These were probably the rulers. So the life in the city, the Harappan city was very busy place, and there were people who planned the construction of special buildings and the buildings in which the people were living in the city, and maybe the people who were planning the construction of special buildings would probably be the rulers of the city. It is likely that the rulers sent people to distant lands to get metal, precious stones, and other things that they wanted. So it was probably be imagined that the rulers who were living in these cities were sending the people to different places to get metals, precious stones, and other things so that they can use them. And when they wanted, they sent these peoples to bring all these things. They may have kept the most valuable objects such as ornaments of gold and silver or beautiful beads for themselves. So whatever they were bringing, whatever they were asking the people to bring from different distant land places, what they were doing, the rulers mostly were keeping all the valuable objects with them, such as ornaments of gold and silver and beautiful beads, and after that they were asking the people to sell it in the market. And there were scribes. Who were scribes? Scribes were people who knew how to write, who helped prepare the seals and perhaps wrote on other material that have not survived. So there were scribes also. There in the city of Harappan, there were scribe people also. Who are scribes? Scribes are all those people who knew how to write or who helped prepare the seals. So these are the seals which were used in the Harappan civilization, and perhaps wrote on other material that have not survived. So they also write on other material that have not been survived. So scribes are all those people who knew how to write, and they help in preparing the seals at that time. So what was the Harappan seal? The sign on the top of the seal are a part of a script. So all these seal has a sign on the top of the seal. You can see these signs. The signs are all a part of a script, and this is the earliest form of writing known in the subcontinent. So what is a script? Script is the earliest form of writing known in the subcontinent. Scholars have tried to read these signs, but we still do not know exactly what they mean. So some of the scholars try to read these signs which were made on the seal of Harappan civilization, but still we do not know exactly what they mean, actually what they want to tell. Beside, there were men and women in the city. Craft persons were there making all kind of things either in their own homes or in special workshops. So in Harappan cities, there were men and women who were craft person. Who are craft person? Craft persons are the people who make the things with the help of hand only. They don't use machines. So beside, there were men and women who were craft persons making all kind of things either in their own homes or in special workshops. So these are some items, these are some things which are being planned, which are being made by the people of Harappan cities in their homes or either in special workshops. People were traveling distance land or returning with raw materials and perhaps stories. So people were traveling from one place to another or returning one place to another for collecting raw materials and for making their house. Many terracotta toys have been found and children must have played with these. So these all are terracotta toys. And what are terracotta toys? Terracotta is a clay. It is a red brownish color clay used to make the toys. So many of the terracotta toys were found in the Harappan cities, and these toys would have been used by the children for playing. Now, what are terracotta toys? They were in different forms like animals, cow, bulls, sheep, etc. Like tools, axe and hoe, etc. So hoe is a tool which is used for in gardening, in making the soil dig from the land. Terracotta is usually baked clay. That was used to make different forms of toys. So what is terracotta? Terracotta is a usually baked clay. It is a red brownish color clay which is baked, and then it is used to make different forms of toys. You can see these are terracotta toys. Now let us look at some of the objects that were made and found in Harappan city. So these are some of the objects, some of the ornaments which are being made by the people of Harappan cities, and these were found by archaeologists. Most of the things that have been found by archaeologists are made of stone, shells, and metals, including copper, bronze, gold, and silver. So most of the things which archaeologists found from these cities were made up of stones, shell and metal, including copper, bronze, gold and silver. Copper and bronze were used to make tools, weapons, ornaments and vessels. Gold and silver were used to make ornaments and vessels. So basically the copper and bronze were used to make tools and ornaments and vessels. So you can see this vessel, you can see these weapons and tools. So these all are made up of copper and bronze, and gold and silver were used to make ornaments and vessels. Perhaps the most striking finds are those of beads, weights, and blades. So mostly the archaeologists have been found from these cities. Archaeologists found so many types of beads, weights, and blades from these Harappan cities. So you can see the pictures of beads, weights, and blades which were found by the archaeologists from Harappan cities. Now, what are stone weights? Notice how carefully and preciously these weights are shaped. So you can see in this picture that how carefully and preciously these weights are shaped. These were made of chart, a kind of stone. Chart is a kind of stone. These were probably used to weigh precious stones or metal. So these stones were used as a weighing stone weights. These were used for stone weights for weighing the precious stones or metals at that time. Now what were beads? Beautiful red stone. So this is a very beautiful red stone, carnelian. The stone was cut, shaped, polished, and finally a hole was bored through the center so that a string could be passed through it. So a stone was cut and it was shaped in different shapes, and then it was polished, and then finally a hole was bored through the center so that a string or a wire could be passed from this red stone, and the ornaments could be made. These are the pictures of stone blades which were used as a tools and weapons. So these are also made up of stones, and these are stone blades of the Harappan civilization. Now we will come to the Harappan seals are also made seal out of stones. So these Harappan seals were also made of stones. These were generally rectangular and usually have an animal carved on them. So usually you can see these seals, all the seals are of rectangular shape. Yes, students, are you seeing? See, all these seals are rectangular in shape, and usually they have animals carved on it. So you can see different types of animals are being carved on these seals. And the Harappan seals were also made out of stones. So these were also made out of stones. The Harappan also made pots with beautiful black design. So the people of Harappan cities had also made pots. These types of pots were made where beautiful black designs were made on the pots. Cotton was probably grown at Mehergarh from about 7,000 years ago. So cotton was probably grown at Mehergarh because we have studied in chapter 2 that in Mehergarh agriculture was started. People have started growing barley, cotton, etc. So cotton was probably grown at Mehergarh from about 7,000 years ago. Actual piece of cloth were found attached to the lid of a silver vase and some copper objects at Mohenjodaro. So some of the pieces of clothes were found attached to the lid of silver vessels, and some copper objects were also found in the city Mohenjodaro of Harappan civilization. A stone statue of an important man found from Mohenjodaro show him wearing an embroidered garment. So this was a man's statue. This was a stone statue of a man which was found from the which archaeologists found from Mohenjodaro city, which shows that this statue is wearing an embroidered garment. So a cloth with embroidery was also being made at that time. Archaeologists have also found spindle wall made of terracotta and faience. So these were the archaeologists also found some spindle walls. So what are spindle walls? Spindle walls are basically used for making the clothes. They are used to spin the threads. When the threads are being spinned on this, and then the cloth is being made. So archaeologists have found spindle walls made up of terracotta. So from which this spindle walls were made? These spindle walls were made of terracotta and faience. What are faience? We will study later. These were used to spin threads. So spindle walls were used to spin threads. Now we will study that what are faience. Unlike stones or shells that are found naturally, faience is a material that is artificially produced. A gum was used to shape sand or powdered quartz into an object. The object were then glazed, resulting in a shiny, glazy surface. So faience is found naturally, but how it is not used directly. So it is a material that is artificially produced. A gum, this you can see a gum mixture is being used, and then this gum mixture was used to shape sand or powdered quartz into an object, and the object were then glazed, resulting in shiny and glazy surface. So you can see this blue color object. This is a faience. When the powder is being mixed with the gum, then a shape is being made, and then that shiny glazy surface is a faience. And from this, so many types of ornaments and the vessels are being, earrings, bangles are being made. So the color of glaze were usually blue or sea green. So you can see blue color or sea green color. So faience were of blue color and sea green color. Faience were used to make beds. Faience were used to make beads, bangles, earrings, and tiny vessels. So these were used to make beads, ornaments. You can say the malas. Yes, beads, bangles, earrings, and tiny vessels. Many of the things that were produced were probably the work of specialists. So many of the things which were made in these cities were produced probably with the help of specialists. A specialist, who is a specialist? Specialist is a person who is trained to do only one kind of work. Either he is perfectionist in cutting stones, or polishing beads, or carving seal. So he is a specialist in one work, and he is trained to do that one kind of work only. Like he is specialist in cutting stones, whether a person is specialist in polishing beads or carving seals. These all are known as specialists. Look at this picture and see how well the face is carved and how carefully the beard is shown. Yes, you can see how carefully the face is carved in this picture, and how carefully the beard is shown. This must have been the work of an expert or a specialist craft person. Yes? Not everybody could have been a specialist. We do not know whether only men were specialists or only women were specialists at that time in Harappan civilizations. Perhaps some women and men may have been specialists. Now there are questions in this chapter. We will just do, these are the questions which are in between the explanation. Make a list of the people who lived in the city. Were any of these people listed as living in villages such as Mehergarh? So we have to make a list of people who lived in cities, and were any of these people listed as living in villages such as Mehergarh? So the answer is, the people who lived in the city were rulers, traders, scribes, craftspersons. Second point, Mehergarh was one of the earliest village. Here the people had learned to grow wheat and barley, and also rear goats and sheep. Second question, was metal used in the villages? You learned about in chapter 2. Was stone used to make weights? So was metal used in the villages? in when we learned in chapter 2, when we were studying in chapter 2, metal was used, was stone used to make weights at that time? So let's see the answer. Metal was not used in the villages. They made tools with stones only. Yes, no, and second, no, because they do not know about weights it in that period. So there were no use of weight also, because they were not knowing about the weight at that in that period. So now, students, we have studied the life of the people in Harappan cities. We have discussed the craft, the art and craft which was being made by the craft persons and the specialists in these cities. Yes, so just see this video once again and try to understand what was there in Harappan cities, what was developed, what was new in these cities, how the craft persons were, what are the ornaments and the weapons and tools were made by the craft person in this civilization, Harappan cities, and how was the life of the people in Harappan cities. Thank you, students, and have a nice day.